Hey everyone, this is Jong over here, and welcome back to another video. Today, this will be my COAVI Golden Apple Guide. This video will cover up a lot of things, including a recap on the format of the COAVI groups, an introduction of all the playing teams, including their strengths and concerns. Most importantly, I'll also have my predictions for the rankings of the group stages. If you guys want to skip directly to my group ranking predictions, then please skip to the time code on the screen. I'm joined by familiar guest today, Soymilk. Wanna say hi?
Hey guys, Soymilk! I'm so happy to be here joining in this video and cannot wait to for you guys to just take all our predictions and of course trust our judgments. And yeah, so let's get right into the video.
Yup, anyways, this will be a very long video, so bear with me. And if I did make some mistakes in the statistics, I'll sincerely apologize. With that, I'll be starting the video and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Here is a quick recap of the 20 teams participating in the main stage of COAVI Global. We have ACT, Do5, FPXZQ, GG, GR, GW, RB, WBG, and Wolves from the China region, AXZ, FL, RC, SZ, and Zeta from the Japan region, GH and ZT from the SEA region, B4U and OM from the NAEU region, RD from the HMT region, and MS from the Korean region. These teams have been divided to 4 groups of 5, and the group divisions goes like this.
Yeah, the teams in each group will all play against each other in a round-robin bracket, and all the matches, the bottom 2 teams of each group will be eliminated, while the top 3 teams will advance to the main stage event. The first placing team will directly advance to the 8th bracket, while the second and third placing team will advance to the top 12 in the finals and have to play 1 extra round.
Group A has RC, FPXZQ, GW, B4U, and GG. Group B has AXZ, RD, OM, ZT, and FL. Group C has ACT, SZ, RB, WBG, and Do5, while Group D has MS, GH, Zeta, Wolves, and GR. Honestly, this group draw is definitely one of the most ridiculous ever. Group A is full of bomb players and is literally the bomb zone. Group B doesn't have any China teams and is literally World War III. Group C is full of China teams and is 2023 IVL Spring, and all members of Group D has won champions in the past and it's called What Champion Are You? So, with how the groups are split, this will be one interesting COAVI to watch, but now I'll be introducing all 20 teams of the COAVI Global. RC is a team from Japan and they were the 2nd place in the regular season of IJL Autumn and 4th place in the playoffs. However, their performance in the COAVI qualifiers has been relatively weaker, being the last team to qualify for the COA in the Japanese region. Their main hunter, Aka, is known to be a terrifying hunter, being one of the strongest hunters in the Japan region and winning the MVP Hunter of 2022 IJL Autumn. Aka specializes in field controlling hunters, such as the Clerk and the Dream Witch. Apart from conventional hunters, he also specializes in unconventional hunters, such as the Hermit, Smiley Face, and Mad Eyes as well. His Hermit made a debut in the qualifiers, and he managed to be the first professional hunter to land a 4K with it. Having both conventional and unconventional picks, RC's Hunter is a force to be reckoned with. RC's Survivor, on the other hand, are less consistent. While the Survivor team had a decent performance in the IJL regular season, but RC survivors tend to be less consistent under pressure. However, through the qualifiers we have seen a massive improvement from their survivor team, being able to score countless free escapes against AXZ. So, from what we last know, RC while having lots of potential in being a stronger Japanese team, but they do potentially struggle under large competitions or pressure, so if RC is able to change this issue, there's no question they're one of the stronger Japanese teams.
FPXZQ is from China. They were the losers brackets winners of Group B in China region qualifiers. They had a weaker performance in 2022 IVL Autumn, placing 8th. However, their performance in COA qualifiers has been promising so far. Their Survivor team comp are pretty young in general. While their Survivor team can be inconsistent in IVL Autumn, in the COA qualifiers, they changed massively and are a force to be reckoned with. CQ survivors are able to score 3 escapes almost every match, and even scoring a 4th escape against GR2. One person to especially note, their harass main Maom is very strong, being able to give timely assist and save his teammates from potential bad situations. Their main hunter D is an experienced player, and this is his 5th COA this year. He mainly plays Wax Artist along with Guard 26 and Bloody Queen. His performance can be a bit inconsistent, and if we look at a hunter's statistics from IVL Autumn, statistically he is considered below average in the China region currently. As in the qualifiers, he has struggled against top China survivor teams. So overall, while the survivor team show potential in being above average, their hunter is still at the weaker side. So FPXCQ is considered around average level in mainland China power scale.
GW is another team from China, and they were the last team to advance from the wildcards of the China region qualifiers. In terms of past record, GW seems to be one of the weaker Chinese teams on paper, placing 9th in the IVL Autumn of 2022, but their actual performance in-game would say otherwise. In the qualifiers, their survivor team had a consistent performance, rarely dropping games and can play under pressure. GW is probably one of the most unconventional survivor teams. As while they do have Antiquarian and Prospector, they will also surprise us with non-meta picks, including the Lucky Guy and the Thief as well. For GW survivors, while individually they are pretty consistent, and they do have good plans and strategy, more often than not they cannot execute their plans correctly. Their hunter Anyi is actually on loan from Wolves, and he mainly specializes in Guard 26 and Wax Artist, and he also has Breaking Wheel, Soul Weaver, and Clerk. Similar to D, Anyi's performance can be a bit inconsistent. While he does have a high ceiling, in his bad days he would struggle against non-professional teams too. While GW did hold their own against non-professional China teams, but with both factions of GW not being on par with the top teams, they are considered a relatively weaker team in China.
B4U is a team from NAU. B4U is experienced in COA as this is their 3rd year in a row qualifying, and they have also won a couple of IVTs in the past, and is deemed as one of the strongest teams in the NAU region. Their hunter Sprinter is definitely a force to be reckoned with, having a variety of hunters such as Dreamwitch, Breaking Wheel, Clerk, and Wax Artist. Sprinter has long been dominating force in NAU, and last year in COA 5, he also had a decent performance against Wolves too. Meanwhile, their other hunter, Pistopers, is also very strong, managing to score a 4K in his COA debut match, with his Sculpture too. Honestly, the hunter faction from B4U is very solid in NAU. Meanwhile, their survivor team has definitely become more consistent compared to the previous year, as they managed to make decent kiting and support in the NAU qualifiers. Among the team is Problems, who is one of the strongest kiters in NAU, and he has been recognized by the Chinese casters last year in COA with his Perfumer. However, there is still room for improvement for the survivor team, as they do occasionally have some hiccups in making decisions and also split-second reactions. Overall, there is no question B4U is one of the top of NAU. It is only the same question: can they square off against teams from other regions?
GG is another team from the mainland China, and they were the team that was granted automatic qualifications for COA 6 from being the champions of 2022 IVL Autumn. For GG survivors, they have Ku Cao, who is dubbed as one of the strongest kiter in the game, as he did manage to do a clutch dungeon escape he did in the IVL finals. They also have PPCA, whom used to be a hunter main before swapping to the survivor in 2022. GG Survivor has a very high ceiling, specializing in supporting, but their consistency is slightly lacking as they do often over-support. Also, GG Survivor's main weakness is against the Dream Witch, as they tend to struggle against Dream Witch mains, so this is definitely something we should look out for. GG's main hunter Xiaoma mains guard 26, but he also has a variety of hunter picks such as the Disciple, Wax Artist, Geisha, Soul Weaver, and Bloody Queen. In this season, he was the second ranked hunter only behind Dongshan, and he was the hunter's MVP for the regular season. His performance in the playoffs was even terrifying, as in the Survivor-sided meta, he was the one hunter that still gives tremendous pressure on his opponents, and he also proved that he can perform well under pressure, as he successfully 4K'd in a game they must get a free K or more. It has been a while since we've seen GG play, but from what we last seen from them, Xiaoma is already one of the top hunters in IVL, and their Survivor team have a very high skill ceiling, making GG definitely one of the top teams of mainland China and a strong contender of this COA 6.
AXZ, also known as AXZ, is a team from the Japanese region, and they qualify through the winners brackets of the qualifiers, defeating RC to advance. AXZ had a weaker performance during the IJL regular season, having a record of 1-11 and being the only professional Japanese team to miss out on the playoffs. While the AXZ Survivor team was below average in the regular seasons, they did show signs of improvement throughout the qualifiers, as their teamwork and game sense has improved, clutching out a Cypher Rush to save a life. Among the Survivor team comp is Lim, who was formerly an SSD player, and throughout the qualifiers, Lim did manage to pull off key rescues to save the game. While AXZ Survivors did improve, the question remains if they can pull similar tricks off against stronger hunters in China and their Japanese region. The AXZ Hunter team, on the other hand, is relatively weaker in the Japan region, being the last place in IJL. Their BO1 hunter is D Ming, who is new to the professional scene, only joining this COA. He is a clerk and geisha player, but his performance in the qualifiers is relatively weak, only tying at best. Their second hunter is Rose, who can play Bonbon, Wax Artist, Geisha, Soul Weaver, and Nayat. Rose's performance in IJL Autumn was also relatively weak as well, not being able to secure any 4Ks in the season, as he often tunnels too much and loses focus too. So, for AXZ, the Hunter faction of the team remains a concern, and it will be a question whether they can face off against stronger Japanese or China teams.
RD is a team from the Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan region, and they also have COA experience under their belt as they qualified back at COA 4, and they also participated in the IVS 2022, making it to the top 6. RD's main hunter Rune can play a variety of hunters using Dream Witch, Geisha, Clerk, Guard 26, and Bloody Queen throughout the qualifiers. Rune has a very consistent performance, managing to not drop a single game, and also have the ability to withhold pressure when needed, using Hermit to get a free K. Another thing to note is Rune defeated the same Survivor team that gave Afu, a former China hunter, a hard run, and this just notes how much potential Rune has. RD's Survivor team also had a pretty solid and consistent performance too. While they do have the supporting game sense, most of the time it is not really required that much, as each of their members can kite solidly. While they are from the HMT, they also had a decent performance against Korean and Japanese hunters during the IVS in 2022, so there's definitely potential from them this year. Overall speaking, RD has no specific faction that shines, as both factions from RD are balanced and have potential against non-professional teams, and the only question here is if they can square off against professional ones.
OM is a team from the NAU region. This is their first year participating in COA, though they did play in the NAU's IVT being top 4. OM's hunter Nico had a very strong performance in the qualifiers, and he showed a variety of character pools, such as the Cleric, Sculptor, and the Dream Witch. In the qualifiers, he showed his ability to not give up despite the situation, and he managed to reverse a 4.5 cipher first guide into a 4K, and also getting a 4K 3 times in one matchup too. Nico showed that he is also a dominating force of hunter in the NAU region. OM Survivor team, on the other hand, did have a slightly weaker performance, as there are moments that they will make misplays or having the kite to be short. But they did also show their resilience, as in the match against Fusion, managing to reverse 2 bad early starts too. So OM Survivors does have potential to do better in the NAU competitive scene, but may struggle against stronger regions. So with a relatively weaker performance from the Survivor faction and overall NAU IDV isn't as developed, how OM will play against other regions will be a concern.
Zeta is a team from the SEA region, and they were the winners of the SEA region qualifiers. Despite this being their first year joining COA, they have actually been in the SEA competitive scene for quite some time, being the first runner-up in 2022 IVC. Zeta's hunter Meowpie is new to the global competitive scene, but he has made various appearances in non-official tournaments before. Meowpie can play a variety of hunters such as the Breaking Wheel, Clerk, Guard 26, and Wax Artist. In a recent scrim against Scars from Japan, he managed to dominate and 4K them twice. While scrims aren't 100% accurate, this does show the extent of the skill from Meowpie, and he has a lot of potential heading into COA for CT. CT's Survivor team is actually very interesting. They had a very strong performance in the COA 6 qualifiers, managing to do a 4th Survivor escape in the finals. One of their survivors, MX, is known to be a very strong kiter despite using unconventional picks such as the Lawyer and Mindsai. Individually wise, the ZT survivors' kiting skills are definitely solid, but if there's one thing to improve moving into the globals, it will be their decision making. Overall, ZT has lots of potential moving forward from them having a 2-0 against Scars in a scrim. There's no doubt they're one of the strongest survivor team comp in SEA, but the question remains if they can fare off against professional teams.
Fennel is a team from Japan, and they qualified through the winners brackets of the qualifiers. They were 3rd place in the regular season of IJL Autumn, but finished in the top 6 during the IJL playoffs. While both factions are strong, their survivor team shines even more, being the 2nd survivor team in IJL, only behind Zeta. Fennel's survivor main strengths come from their individual strength. Among the team is Anpi, who was known for his fast reaction perfumer in COA last year. The team can also assist decently too, surprising everyone with a perfect priestess strategy in the qualifiers. Throughout the qualifiers, Fennel did show inconsistency in some matches, but they also did have some strong performances, getting 11 survivor escape in 3 games against Dawn. Fennel's current main hunter is PP Cha, who is AJ's hunter in the last COA. PP Cha's performance in IJL last season isn't as astonishing as before, yet he still is pretty consistent, managing to tie the majority of the time. PP Cha plays Naiad, Sculpture, Breaking Wheel, Cleric, and Bloody Queen. Throughout the qualifiers, PP Cha had a very solid performance, rarely dropping games and also having the ability to withhold pressure when needed. So he's definitely a solid hunter, though his ability to score points is not as strong compared to top Japanese hunters yet. Overall speaking, they're around the middle of the pack for Japanese teams, and one potential concern is their survivor team's recent inconsistency under hunter PP Cha, not having the same domination he did in COA 5. So this puts a potential question if Fennel can compete against the stronger Chinese teams.
ACT is also a team from mainland China, and they were the 1st place of the China qualifiers in Group A. ACT has a nickname called the 50-50 team, as in IVL they have the potential to win against the strongest, yet also lose against the weakest. They were 3rd place in the regular season in IVL Autumn and finished the playoffs in 4th place. ACT's Hunter Yue used to be a Dreamwitch main, but in this qualifiers we see him expanding his character pool, having Nayet, Wax Artist, Disciple, and Soul Weaver for his pick as well. Before, he tended to struggle during mid-game, but in the qualifiers we can see a massive improvement in his instant reactions, chasing skills, and understanding of hunters. Currently, Yue is definitely on the rise and is considered above average for the mainland China region. ACT's Survivor team is pretty consistent throughout the IVL Autumn regular season and qualifiers, ranking 6th of all the Survivor teams. However, they lack experience in playing under playoffs or high stakes, as in the IVL Autumn playoffs, the Survivor team had a weaker performance and occasionally fumbled under pressure. The ACT Survivor team, while consistent, doesn't shine as much as the top survivors. So, ACT has no specific faction that excels, as both factions have their moments, and while they are considered to be one of the stronger China teams, there is a considerable gap in their ceiling compared to the top survivors.
Scars is a team from the Japan region. They had a weaker performance in the IJL Autumn regular season, playing 6th, but they got 3rd place in IJL playoffs. They were granted automatic qualification from having the next highest overall score in IJL. Scars is a team that excels at their Survivor faction. They were the 3rd ranked team in IJL and they have lots of strong kiters. The Scars Survivor team showed very strong teamwork in the playoffs, as they are also known to dream big, playing aggressive most of the time and having the skill to back it up. Scars is also known to be very skilled at playing against Dreamwitch and daringly not ban her at in BO2. Currently, Scar survivors can dominate against weak hunters, though the performance playing against stronger hunters do remain to be questioned. Scar's hunter faction is relatively weaker in the Japan region, ranking 6th in IJL. Scar's BO1 hunter is Miraik, who plays Sculpture, Nayat, and Wax Artist. His performance throughout the IJL autumn season is relatively weaker, though his performance in the IJL finals was much better, managing to secure 3 to 4k. Their later round hunter Celia has a larger variety of hunters, having a Dreamwitch, Wax Artist, Geisha, Soul Weaver, Disciple, and Undead. However, his performance was also relatively weak, and he has shown to struggle against the strong survivor teams throughout IJL Autumn 2. Scars is known for his ability to make a strong BP against IJL teams, and is considered a stronger team in Japan. However, they are known to struggle in BP against overseas teams. Also, the lack of stronger latter round hunters poses a challenge to Scars if they are going to play against other China teams.
RB is also a team from the mainland China region, and they qualified for the wildcard brackets in the China region qualifiers. They were last place in the 2022 Autumn IVL. RB's path in the qualifiers has been rocky, as their survivor team had a relatively weaker performance at the start, including getting 4K'd by a non-professional hunter. But the survivor team massively improved towards the later half. One of the stars of their team is their anti-queer main Hua Hua, who managed to make various good plays against different hunters. So while statistically speaking, they were one of the weaker survivor teams in China, they definitely have improvement potential currently. RB's hunter Yan is a Dreamwitch main, and he can also play the Wax Artist, Nayat, Disciple, and Geisha. Statistically speaking, RB's hunter is also below average in the China region, being last in IVL 2022 Autumn. Sometimes he will have a good start in the game, but misses opportunities to snowball in the 4K. From this qualifiers, Yan had a weaker performance, rarely managed to score a 3 to 4K against non-professional teams. So overall, while being a team from the mainland China, both factions from RB are considered below average in terms of the China region, so they're also considered a weaker team from China as well.
WBG is another team from mainland China, qualifying through the loser brackets of Group A in the China region. They were the first runner-up of 2022 IVL Summer, but their performance has dropped after, placing 5th in the 2022 IVL Autumn playoffs. WBG is a team that excels under Survivor, with their Survivor faction ranking 4th in 2022 IVL Autumn. Long, in particular, is very consistent, being able to make strong kites most of the time and rarely making any mistakes. However, WBG's Survivor team has become less consistent in the COA 6 qualifiers, often making fatal mistakes, so this will be a potential concern to whether the consistency will be resolved for the qualifiers. WBG's Hunter, YMM, is a Dream Witch player, but he also excels in Nayat and Clark. One special thing of him is he's a Joseph player, securing a 4K with it in the IVL finals before. Compared to the IVL Hunters, YMM has a lower ceiling, only being able to consistently tie and not able to go beyond that no matter the good start. Throughout the qualifiers, he does maintain his consistency, but compared to other IVL hunters, he has a relatively smaller character pool, using only the mentioned 3 hunters consistently. This makes his options more limited, and he is only considered an average hunter player in the mainland China region. So overall, WBG is considered to be an above-average team, but does have concerns moving into COA 6.
Do5 is a team from mainland China, and they were first place in the China qualifiers in Group B. Do5 definitely had their ups and downs throughout this year, as they were the champions of 2022 IVL Summer, but then they failed to qualify for the playoffs for Autumn after switching members. Do5 is a team that excels on Hunter. Their Hunter player Dongxuan is claimed as one of the strongest hunters in the entire world, as throughout the entire IVL history, he received regular season Hunters MVP in 5 out of 6 seasons, being able to play Dream Witch, Nayat, Wax Artist, Disciple, Clerk, and Geisha. Also, we are currently in the Survivor Saturn meta, but yet in the COA qualifiers, Dongxuan can still consistently score 3 to 4Ks as well. The Survivor team's performance in IVL Autumn was pretty weak, as they were 9th in the Survivor team rankings and was responsible for Do5 not making the playoffs. But if we look at the COA qualifiers, while still not the best, they're definitely more consistent and they can also lead the team to victory. Their Survivor playstyle is interesting, as most of them have the decent kiting skills on their own and can solo kite for a long time, and the team mostly relies on raw kiting, but their Survivors assisting can be a bit weak compared to top Survivor teams. Overall, having Dongxuan to carry, they're definitely one of the strongest teams in China's, but whether they're the direct strongest or not depends on if the Survivor team can withstand pressure and be more consistent. Overall, having Dongxuan to carry, they're definitely one of the strongest teams in China, but whether they are the direct strongest or not depends on if the Survivor team can withstand pressure and be more consistent.
MS, or Money Sweep, is a team from Korea, winning the Korean qualifiers. MS is also an experienced team in COA, this being their 2nd year in a row to qualify for COA. MS Hunter Mitake has played a large variety of hunters, showing his Dream Witch, Cleric, Nayat, Geisha, and Guard 26 at the same time. Not only is he able to maintain such a large character pool, but he also shows his proficiency in all the characters, as throughout the qualifiers he managed to get 7 4Ks out of 8. In the recent scrim against Zeta, Mitake also dominated and had a very strong result against them. So this shows Mitake is definitely a threat to not only non-professional teams, but potentially to professional teams too. MS Survivor team had a weaker performance. The Survivor team occasionally made misplays and wrong decisions and did rely on the hunter a bit. Some highlight players from their team are definitely I'm So Ovo or I'm So Sexy's female dancer, which gave us lots of highlights with these perfect dances during last year, and his female dancer is definitely something that we should look out for. So having Mitake's hunter, they definitely can give other non-professional teams a challenge, and their performance hinges on whether the Survivor team can pick themselves together.
GH is a team from the SCA region, and they qualified from winning the SCA IVC in 2022. They also participated in IVS 2022, being in the top 6. GH Survivor faction has been very consistent throughout the IVC, rarely dropping any games, and they've showcased some pretty strong willpower, willing to go for high risk and being able to execute the plans. In IVS, we get to see the Survivor team's full potential, as they had some very good games against professional hunters as well, though their performance can be inconsistent at then. So overall, GH Survivors has the potential to square off against professional hunters, though their consistency will be a question. GH's main hunter Godj is very experienced in the COA, having his first appearance ever since COA 2. Godj plays a variety of hunters, being able to play Wax Artist, Sculptor, Soul Weaver, Breaking Wheel, and Dream Witch. His performance for the IVC, while he still dominates most of the time, he does show some inconsistency in some games. In IVS, he did show his potential as he got very close to 3K a professional team. So, both of GH's factions are balanced and a real dominating force in the SCA, and they do have potential to get closer towards certain professional teams, but there will still be a considerable gap in terms of skills.
Zeta is a Japanese team, and they are dubbed as the strongest team in Japan, being the champions in IJL Summer and Autumn. They were granted automatic qualification from winning the IJL Autumn 2022. Zeta is a team that excels with their Survivor lineup, as they were the #1 Survivor team in 2022 IJL Autumn. While the Survivor team can support one another strongly, the members individually also have strong kiting skills. Among the Survivor team is Kazuneko, a former SST player. Kazuneko is a harasser main, and he pulled off lots of clutch stunts with his forward and prospector, winning the regular season Survivor MVP. It is no doubt that Zeta Survivors are the #1 team in Japan. Zeta has 2 hunters in their team. Their BO1 hunter Vampy plays Dream Witch on Guard 26. He had a weaker performance throughout the IJL regular season, but in the IJL playoffs, he massively improved, being able to bring the lead for the team. Their second hunter, Alf, can play a variety of characters, including Dream Witch, Guard 26, Cleric, Geisha, and Wax Artist. Alf is considered one of the strongest hunters in IJL, winning the MVP of regular season and finals. And he also proves to be on par with China Survivor teams, asserting dominance over WBG survivors during IVS. Overall, with Vampy improving, Zeta's hunter faction is a threat not only to Japanese regions, but China as well. So, with Zeta having both a very strong survivor and hunter faction, this makes them one of the top contenders of COA 6.
Wolves is a team from mainland China. They were the COAF winners last year, and they are granted automatic qualification from having the next highest overall points in the China region. Wolves is also a team that excels from their Survivor lineup. Wolves Survivor team is the #1 team in China, and throughout IVL Autumn, they've only been 4K'd once in the entire season. Wolves Survivor playstyle comes from their strong kiting skills and having strong communication to top off with that, as they have the ability to plan for escapes prematurely. Wolves Survivor team has been near unbeatable throughout the entire IVL and is undeniably one of the strongest in China. Wolves Hunter Alex is a very experienced hunter, being the top in China almost since the game was released. Alex is considered about average in China, and he has a mass variety of hunters with Guard 26, Naiad, Soul Weaver, Wax Artist, Geisha, Sculptor, and also an X-Boy. With such a large character pool, Alex most of the time can consistently tie, but he is also shown to be able to play under pressure when needed. While Alex's performance in the regular season was strong, his performance in the playoffs was slightly weaker, as he did show signs of struggle playing against stronger Survivor teams. It has also been some time ever since we saw Wolves play. Having the top Survivor team and Alex's strong performance, this makes Wolves a strong contender for this COA, though the only slight concern right now is have Alex regain his best form back for COA 6.
GR, also known as Glory, is a team from the mainland China region. They qualified through the wildcards in the qualifiers. They were third place in 2022 IVL Autumn Playoffs, winning 3 teams in a row. However, they had a weaker performance in the qualifiers. GR is also another team that excels in their Survivor faction, being the second place in IVL Autumn, only behind Wolves. They have 4 escaped 6 times during the IVL Autumn, being the highest. However, in the qualifiers, they did have a weaker performance at the first game, but subsequently rebounded and are back to top form. Among the Survivor team is AK, who is dubbed as one of the strongest leader in IVL, having the ability to direct his teammates from impossible situations, and he contributed a lot for GR Survivor's strong performance. GR current main hunter, Super Rich, plays the Gore 26, Axeboy, Wax Artist, Geisha, and Bloody Queen. His performance in the IVL Autumn is slightly weaker, hovering around the average level, and while he can hold his own against weaker Survivor teams, but as seen in both IVL playoffs and qualifiers, he has subsequently struggled against the stronger Survivor teams, and this will be a concern for GR's Hunter faction moving forward. While GR Survivor faction definitely places them on one of the stronger teams in China region, but the slightly weaker faction in the Hunter may prevent them from reaching the strongest level.
So now I've completed introducing the 20 teams with Soymilk, and now it is time to head on the group rankings. Just a disclaimer before I start. All these rankings are based only on my personal opinions, and I will not bear any responsibility on any lost golden apples. Also, the rankings here does not reflect my likings of a team, as me predicting a team would be higher ranked does not mean I love that team and vice versa. Without further ado, let's head off to the predictions. For Group A over here, the first place team I believe is very likely to be GG, as they were in top form during the 2022 IVL Finals, having a very strong Survivor team and Hunter. Among Group A, there are no team that can get close to GG in terms of skill level from both factions. Also, GG's biggest weakness is against the Dream Witch, which majority of the teams here do not main. Hence, without their main weakness Hunter in the team here, I am pretty confident GG will be the first place of Group A. For the 5th place of Group A, I unfortunately will have to put B4U in there, as well B4U being a stronger team in the NAEU region. Unfortunately, as we all know, NAEU despite have been improving and evolving, there's still considerable amount of skill gap between China or Japan to the NAEU region, especially on the Survivor's end. Considering B4U's opponents are all professional teams, I believe B4U is the weakest team in this group, hence they're last. For the 2nd place of Group A, here I'll be guessing it is FPXZQ. While FPXZQ had a weak performance during IVL Autumn, they dominated throughout the qualifiers, managing to defeat GR, who was 3rd place in the IVL playoffs. Their Survivor was a force to be reckoned with, and the issue hinges on their Hunter. But while these struggles against strong Survivor teams, he can definitely hold his own against middle to weaker Survivor teams, and considering GW and RC Survivors aren't near that level yet, I believe this puts ZQ over the edge of both teams to get 2nd place, though recently, ZQ is having internal issues, so this may be a bit of concern. The more questionable pick here is between GW and RC. From what we've seen in the COA qualifiers, GW did start off the qualifier strong, but unfortunately failed to maintain that, while RC had a bit of hiccup in qualifying, dropping against an amateur team. If we compare both teams' factions against each other, I think that RC's Hunter may be what is needed to give RC over the edge, seeing that he got the Hunter MVP in IJL Autumn. So, RC will be placed over GW, and my final rankings for Group A would be 1st place GG, 2nd place FPXZQ, 3rd place RC, 4th place GW, and 5th place B4U.
For Group B over here, this will be one confusing group to predict, but overall I believe that Japanese teams will have the edge over the other regions. So with that out of the way, FL being one of the stronger Japanese teams, I believe they will be 1st place. For the 5th place, I unfortunately have to place OM, as NAU's region disadvantage is hard to overcome, seeing they don't have lots of experience playing against other regions due to geographical locations and pings, and OM having no experience playing against overseas teams. This definitely puts them in a disadvantage. The second to fourth place in Group B is actually harder to guess, as any sort of order is possible. AXZ is a Japanese professional team, yet they are one of the weaker ones, but still, I will be placing AXZ second place, considering that their Survivor Team Comp had a very solid performance in qualifiers against other strong Japanese hunters. So with them to take the lead, AXZ hunters should have no qualm in getting a few ties needed to secure the matchup for AXZ. Finally, the third and fourth place is very hard, as anything may happen, but I will be putting RD over CT here by a small margin. Throughout my observations in the qualifiers, both RD and CT Survivor factions are pretty solid and capable, though CT's Survivor faction did exhibit a bit more of domination over RD. If we compare hunters, CT's Hunter Meow Pai is new to the competitive scene and we have yet to see his full potential, while RD's Ryun had a very solid performance as he held his own against the team that bested AFU. So I think this will be a good indication that Ryun can hold his own against most of the non-professional teams. Hence, I think overall speaking, RD is slightly ahead of CT in terms of consistency and ceiling level. So my predictions for Group B is FL first, AXZ second, RD third, ZT fourth, and OM fifth. Though this is the one that I have the least confidence about.
For Group C, here I'm a Do5 fan over here, but objectively speaking, I'll still place them first, as they still have Dongshan as their hunter, who is arguably one of the strongest hunters in the world. Dongshan dominated throughout the qualifiers despite this being a Survivor-sided meta, and the main concern here is the Survivor team's consistency. In the qualifiers, Do5 survivors were pretty consistent, and if they maintain it, then I think Do5 should be able to secure first place. The fifth place of this group I believe will be RB. RB is one of the weaker teams from the China region, and they had a rougher time qualifying, and they qualified only winning against amateur teams, and even some of those were close calls. So based on their performance in the qualifiers, I don't see them being able to square off against other professional teams in this group. The second place of this group I predict will be ACT. ACT's performance in this qualifiers have been pretty promising, dominating RB and also defeating WBG. Yue especially have improved a lot with its consistency, and so long as their Survivor also work on improving, this current ACT team is definitely one of the stronger teams in China. The larger question here will be between WBG and Scars. From what we last seen from them, SZ had good survivors and a slightly out of form hunter, while WBG is vice versa. However, one thing to note is why MM would struggle more against strong survivor teams, especially due to its limited character pool. The later the round goes, the more WBG may struggle, so this does give Scars more of a chance, as their BO1 hunter Muraike has shown to be back in form, while Celia is slowly improving from the IGL Autumn playoff. All of this, adding to WBG Survivor is also slightly out of form, this would give the edge SZ needs over WBG. So my prediction for Group C would be Do5 first, ACT second, SZ third, WBG fourth, and RB fifth.
For Group D, in this group I will start from the bottom. Considering the gap between China and Japan to other regions, MS and G8 will struggle to play against the three professional teams, especially adding on the fact that GR, Wolves, and Zeta are all considered to be stronger teams in China and Japan respectively. So the only question here is who will be the fourth and who will be the fifth. From what we last know of GH, while they still have a gap from professional teams, they did have some decent performance in last IVS. Comparatively, MS Survivor's weak performance in the qualifiers may be a bit more of a concern heading to the match up, so I'll be placing GH fourth and MS fifth. After, the team that will be third, I believe, is GR. Well, GR will be able to beat MS and GH without a problem, but GR current main issue is that they have a weaker Hunter faction, as comparing to Zeta and Wolves, who have a decent faction on both Survivor and Hunter. GR's Hunter super rich currently might struggle against top teams, and Wolves and Zeta are the top Survivor teams respectively in China and Japan. Hence, this may be the downfall, so I will be placing GR at third. Finally, the one in question is between Wolves and Zeta. I believe if both teams are fighting in top form, it will be completely 50-50. Both teams are well known for their strong Survivor faction, while their Hunter faction is no pushover as well. From what we last know, Alex was slightly out of form during the IVL playoffs, but the same can also be exhibited over Zeta Survivors too. So if we compare them during the top form, Wolves were near unbeatable, while the performance of Zeta's BO1 Hunter Vampy does remain some concern. Also, in last IVS, MRC has destroyed Zeta in the finals, which I think does hint that Chinese team does have a slight edge over a Japanese team in top form. So with that, I believe Wolves will be first and Zeta second, but only by a small margin. So my predictions for Group D will be Wolves first, Zeta second, GR third, GH fourth, and MS fifth.
Alright, now we're done with the whole guessing of the group thing, so let's just talk about who are we aiming and who are we rooting for to win, Soymilk, shall we?
Yeah, sure. Well, as you can see the picture right here, I'm definitely rooting for GR. I've always been a GR big fan girl, and even though I also root for MRC and Do5, still GR is gonna be my top team to root for.
Well, for me, I'll be rooting for Do5 as seen as this post on Instagram over here, as I have always been a Do5 fan and I've been rooting for Dongshan ever since COAVI as he caught my eye. And some of the other teams I'll be paying attention to will be WBG ACT, and just some of the overseas teams, as I also want to see teams from other regions perform well in this COA, right, Soymilk?
Yes, definitely. We're definitely very excited to see ZT finally in COA,
yeah.
And also the Japanese teams. There are so many Japanese teams to root for, and so like this time, really, you just have to root for all the teams that you want and just bet for the best to win.
Yeah, anyways, thanks for doing this with me, Soymilk. I had lots of fun, and thanks for agreeing to helping me recording this. It's been fun doing this with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for watching, and go follow our IG and just keep in touch with us. And anything other video suggestions or anything you want, just leave it on the comments below. Thank you so much.
All right, bye, Soymilk.
Bye.
Anyways, this wraps up the end of this COA 6 Golden Apple Guide video, and hopefully you guys did enjoy it. And if you did, please leave a comment down below and show your support. And if you guys like my content, I'll be continuing to making more for you guys. Anyways, that's Jong over here. I'll see y'all soon. Bye!